I've said.
Are you recording it?
Recording it.
Can you confirm that you're recording it?
Recording it, thank you. Okay, Christine is coming in.
Recorded?
It's recorded. It's so recorded right now, it's not even funny. Okay, you guys. So let's start actually just sitting the way that Michelle is sitting. She's going to be my demo today. You know what? Turn that way. So you're not going to be sitting on your toes. We're going to do that in a little bit, but pull your toes or point your toes back. There you go. And then just sit upright, relax your shoulders down. Take a moment to settle into your skin and into your body. And sometimes it's helpful to play around where you place your hands on your lap so that your shoulders can possibly relax a little bit better. Do that. And as we sit here just for this first minute, wherever else was a part of your Wednesday, whatever else you had going on the whole preceding week, if you happen to be in a quarantine lockdown, all that stuff, just let that kind of settle up off of you. Or just kind of slide off your shoulders and off your skin. Which is, I know it's a tall order. And this is why the central protocol in this practice is just to feel what's going on in your own body. And so just the simplicity of sitting on your shins, the feeling of your torso, the feeling of your breath, the feeling of just your hands resting on your lap. And of course, no less important is just the feeling of your face, which more often than necessary goes unnoticed. And more often than not, influences our overall state. So try to wipe the slate clean in your facial expression, which is neither smiling nor frowning. It's as if it's like the state of your face before any other expression came onto it. There's something intrinsically beautiful about this practice that is very much in keeping with the principles of art. And art is an homage to beauty, essentially. So this practice can be said to be a practice, in some sense, of beauty. And it's interesting that all people gravitate to beauty. We're just sort of built for that. We see this when we pick our favorite food to eat. We see this when we choose music. We see this when we hang out with friends and family. And we see this definitely when we take care of our own health, because to be healthier and better functioning is to actually feel better, which is a description of the senses. It's a description of beauty. And we humans gravitate to beauty because it seems that we are interested in everything that's self-affirming, everything that affirms the fact that, yes, I'm here and yes, I exist. So now as we get into the rest of our practice and start to continue, rather, doing our work to keep putting the body together, however it feels right now in your body, however calm and settled you feel, a good objective is to keep returning to that feeling so that the hardship of any of these poses doesn't cloud over this sense of beingness that you really are. And so you're going to begin to gently float your eyes open. And I think everybody here has done this before, so you're going to come forward onto your hands. And we're going to do our notorious toe sit for a little bit. So curl your toes under. And when you sit upright, if you have one or two blocks ready, if it's too rough for you to sit vertically like this, what you can do is lift your knees and put your block, like you use a bolster, underneath your knees with too much tension on the toes. And if you prop up the block higher, you don't have to do that, your knees will come further off the ground, so it'll still take more tension off your toes. But however you're sitting, use your fingers to curl the little toes under, because sometimes they have trouble getting all the way underneath. And then let's just stay here for 5 reps. And so as we're now trekking kind of a little bit deeper into the body, really into action, into stretching and movement, the challenge is going to be, can you still stay connected to that initial state of calm and settledness and beingness without letting the tension of your feet cover over the sense of who you really are, right? Because the feeling in your feet right now, that passes. So one thing we do in yoga is we look for what doesn't pass. Okay, come forward onto your hands. Point your toes. We'll just do this twice. And as you point your toes, sit back on the heels. Now, the only thing about this position, which is this posture is technically called Vajrasana, but many of you know Hero Pose, Virasana, where your feet are more separated. Whenever you have the top of your feet on the ground like that, especially if you put your body weight on it, it's a good strategy, just for safety reasons, to press your own toenails into the floor, which is the exact same action that you take to lift your toes when your foot is upright on the ground. So here you're just pressing your toenails down. And that'll keep the structures of your ankle a little bit more intact, which is especially useful for some of you extra flexible people, like Michelle May. Okay, come forward onto your hands, curl your toes under, and then sit back on your heels, or on your toes rather, in that first position. Okay. Use your hands again if you need to curl the rest of your toes under. If you don't have a block to put underneath your knees, you could just tilt your torso forward. Yeah, just like that. But just make sure that we don't confuse a tilt with a slump or slouch. So you're going to try this. Squeeze your thighs together, right? So you're mashing one thigh against the other. And then use that concentric squeeze of your thighs to kind of boost your whole upper body up, right? So as if you're like squeezing a tube of toothpaste from the bottom, what happens is the top, well, the toothpaste pushes up to the top and you kind of elongate the tube. So in that same way, use your legs to try to influence the length of your entire upper body. I'm gonna get my dowel, my special teaching stick, just to give me a little extra authority, because you know, I need all I can get. Okay, come forward onto your hands again, then point your toes back, sit on your heels for these next 5 breaths. And while we're here, remember, keep pushing your toenails into the ground. Let's just take a little twist. So you're gonna turn to the right. Yep. And I'll get out of the way. If you can't see this right hand, then you maybe tilt your computer screen, but what you want to be able to do is reach the ground with your right hand without slumping over. So if necessary, you can always use your block to put under your hand. Or if your arm doesn't reach, you can just tilt your torso back and get your hand to the floor. So the right arm, the right arm is going to be used to keep promoting length. You know, what is just generally referred to as axial extension. So it's extending of the axis, elongating of your axis. And without pulling too much into this first twist, you guys, make sure that the most that you try to twist is just to get your chest maybe to flush the wall on the right, as long as it doesn't, if you don't have to push too hard to get there, because in the start of our class, want to be a little gentle and let things and tissues warm up. Last breath out. Let your inhale bring you back to center and then turn over to the left. So left hand behind you and tilt back if you need to, just like you did on the previous side. Just make sure you have enough contact with this left arm to push yourself off the ground. So your left arm is the main thing, that's good, responsible to keep lifting your chest higher and higher off the ground. And say like you're only pulling, you're only exerting like 50% strength of your full potential in this twist. One thing that we really use a twist for that, you know, and I've said this before many times is if you're gonna miss or if you can't go to yoga someday, still make sure that you get in one twist a day because when we rotate, we're helping to mobilize the thoracic spine. And the thoracic spine is the part of the spine that's most related to our breathing. Because like all other things, our breathing requires some flexibility. And this flexibility intersects with the flexibility of the thoracic spine. Last breath out. Lovely. Turn forward. And now walk your hands forward, come up onto your knees, and then slowly start to come up into downward dog. And then move to the right, just see your right hand is right on the edge. Okay, and in this first downward dog, you can pedal your knees, lift your heels one at a time, move your hips around, whatever you need. And one reason that it's an awesome idea to start our classes off with foot flexibility, which is what you were working on, sitting on your toes, because toes and feet are pretty much the same structure, is if you get flexibility in your base, in your foundation, it'll influence flexibility in every other system up from there. Because of what connects you to the ground is inherently kind of tight and confined and dense, how can we ever hope that we're picking up the forces from the ground and relaying back to it adequately, right? Because tightness has a certain sense of being closed off, right? Tight tissue closes us off to the function of those tissues. And that's why flexibility is so huge. So now, just to get a little bit extra in this downward dog, bring your legs together first. And then just pick up your right foot and grab the back of your left heel with the space between your big toe and second toe on the right foot. So you can kind of see in the camera here, right? If I come up close to the camera, I can show you what that looks like here. Right, so I'm grabbing the back of my heel with my right foot, my right big toe and little toe. Big toe and second toe. And as you drive your heel into the ground now with the help of your right leg, lift your left toes up just a bit. Good, and then right foot down, switch sides. So get a good hold of your right heel. Right, it's like you kind of think of them as the peace fingers of your feet. And your big toe and second toe, and use your left foot to drive the right heel down while lifting the right toes. One thing that you might already notice is that why is one of your calves feel tighter than the other? Right, and so it's always a good observation. So then take your left foot off the heel, place it back on the floor, and we're going to do a third set, so you guys on your own pick which heel, which calf felt tighter. So whether it was when the left heel was reaching the ground or the right. Go back to that. And then for the next 4 breaths in this pose, close your eyes. Relax your jaw, relax your mouth, and really just try to absorb, right, like you're immersing yourself in the sensation of your left leg, in the sensation of your left calf. Even though it might not be inherently pleasant, right? Beauty is one way of describing order, the order that our body is made in, the order that the universe works in. And so even if it's unpleasant, what underrides that is organization, right? It's the way that this whole thing is set up that helps us be in better communication, you say communion with life. Take your right foot off the heel or wherever your left foot. And then inhale, lift both heels up. Exhale, bend the knees. Walk or step your feet forward to the hands. And then inhale, do a little half lift. And if you need to place your hands on your shin, that's fine. Just keep your legs straight. Very good. Exhale, fold down. Try to pull your toes towards your head as you pull the top of your head to your toes. And then one big inhale stands you all the way up. Make sure that you bring your hands to touch at the top. And exhale, arms down. Okay, so a couple of sun salutations to continue this. Inhale, lift your toes, lift your arms. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, plant your palms, step back. And before we go down into chaturanga, spread your fingers well, like a lot. And press your index and middle fingertips into the floor as a way to attach the knuckles of those fingers a little bit better, right? The knuckles here, fingertips, we all know. And then keeping your knuckles intact, in contact, exhale, slowly down. Lower to chaturanga or the floor, and then inhale, come forward to upward dog or cobra. Exhale, back to upward. So then when you relax your neck, you let your head hang. If you're not in the mood or if you're not in the practice habit of closing your eyes completely, if that seems to create more tension than keeping them open, just try to make a deal with yourself. See if you can open your eyes less and less at a time. And by sticking your hands into the floor, it's as if you're reaching through the ground with those same fingers. So you try to ultimately take the outer blade of your hand off the ground, or at least lighten its weight load. And that way you start to reach the inner edge of the hands into the mat, which will help you project your torso away from the mat a little bit better. You're going to take a deep breath in as you lift the heels. Exhale, bend your knees, walk or step forward. Inhale, lengthen the trunk. Exhale, fold. Make sure that when you fold here, you reach the end of your exhalation. That honest stop. And inhale, come all the way back up to stand. With your arms coming together at the top. And exhale, arms down. One more time. Big inhale, toes up, heels extra heavy. And as soon as you start to fold on this exhale, see how much you can contract your quadriceps, which lifting the toes works for. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, plant your palms. And as you exhale and step back, use that same exhale to start to descend yourself down to your low plank, and so on and so forth. Get yourself through the rest of your vinyasa, however you get there. And we'll all end up in downward dog. One of BKS Iyengar's principal students, one of his main senior teachers, he talked about how downward dog is like this desert island pose, right? So if you had any posture that you could take with you and you weren't going to be able to do any other pose your whole life, he always talked about how downward dog is one of the poses that should be nominated at least to be in that category because it has so many elements blended into it, right? It's a standing pose, which ultimately it fortifies your legs. It's a forward bend, so you get to working on your hamstrings and not allow your low back to suffer. It's a back bend because of what your upper body's doing. It's more of a back bend arc. And in some way, it's also arm balance because it strengthens your hands, shoulders, and everything in between. Okay, take an inhale with your heels up. Exhale, bend the knees, walk, step, or hop. Good, relax your throat as you inhale, lengthen. And exhale, keep the throat relaxed as you fold. And then one long inhale brings you all the way up to standing so that your body follows the dictates of your breath. And then exhale, arms down. Couple of B's. Bend your knees. Inhale, sit down into chair pose. Let's take 3 breaths in chair pose. Sway your weight back more dominantly to your heels, almost as if there was no floor underneath the front of your feet. Squeeze your thighs together, one more breath in. And keep squeezing your thighs together as you exhale, straighten your legs, and fold. So that first exhale has a lot going on in it. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, come right back to your low plank, or your modification thereof. After the inhale of upward dog, as you exhale to come back to downward dog, immediately step your right foot forward and we'll go into a high lunge. But keep your hands on the ground at first. Set up a long distance lunge so that your front thigh, bring your right foot more forward, so your front thigh is more parallel to the floor. And then inhale, try to get one breath to build up the whole pose. So you inhale all the way up. And immediately as you exhale, slow down the exhale to give you time to plant your hands and come down to your low plank. Inhale, upward dog. Now save enough of this exhale as you come out of downward upward dog to step your left foot forward. Take 2 extra breaths to set up your lunge. And that way, every lunge that's going to follow is going to have a better chance of falling into the right composition based on this one. Because how we start our practice works on this whole principle of like first impression. So inhale, lift your arms up. And exhale, arms come down as your left leg steps back and as you step to your low plank. And then you continue on with this, we'll end up in downward dog again. And what we have and what we see in something like a sun salutation is that exhales have way more complexity attached to it than the inhales, because there's a lot more movements in it that have to happen during one whole exhale than one whole inhale. So it really drives home this point of how, think of it this way, how exhale-centric so many movements are. Right? And there's like very good physiological, anatomical reasons for that. Let's take a deep breath in, lift the heels up. Exhale, bend your knees. Walk or step forward. Inhale, lengthen the torso. Exhale, fold the torso. And as soon as you start to detect your next inhale, bend the knees, squeeze the thighs together, set up chair pose. Just 3 breaths in chair pose. One more inhale together. Exhale, just stand up straight, bring your arms down. Okay, one more. Big inhale. Bend your knees, arms up, chair pose. Exhale, straighten your legs while folding. Inhale, lengthen. Now notice how much stuff happens on an exhale. Exhale, step back and come to chaturanga. Right? One inhale, one pose. But then the exhale, you're coming out of upward dog and stepping your right foot forward. Inhale, arms up to a full high lunge. Exhale, arms come all the way down. And then finish the left side on your own legs. Yeah, Fernanda. Okay, so when you're back in downward dog, drop the head, which can itself be a little bit of a time delay. So this ability to relax your face really influences your ability to relax the neck. So keep your face relaxed, which one thing is eyes, the other thing is your mouth. Your mouth includes your tongue, your throat, your lips, your cheeks, right? Your masticator, chewing muscle. So relaxing your face helps your neck hang. And then amidst that, still project yourself off the ground. Take a deep breath in, lift your heels up. Exhale, bend the knees. Walk or step forward. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Wait for your exhale to come to that finality. And then inhale, bends the knees, lift your arms up. And your exhale is just straight up mountain pose. Hands on the hips. Separate your feet hips width. Inhale, plug your heels into the ground and lift your chest while looking up. And keep attention to look up at the ceiling as you fold. So just stare at the ceiling for as long as you can until the ceiling is like literally out of view. And once you get to your forward fold, keep your hands on your hips for the first 5 breaths. And try to get your fingers, think of it this way, inserted into your hip creases. So then you have to push against your hip creases with your arms. And you can notice how pressing against your own hips can mobilize more length in the spine, right? Because you're pressing your shoulder area by using your arms away from your pelvic area. So that creates more distance. So you can actually impose more length into the system in even a forward bend that's already lengthened. Now grab your big toes next, last 5 breaths, and continue folding to where you're pulling your elbows, maybe not how we've seen it traditionally, out to the sides, but try to pull your elbows more backwards, right? So you can see how Michelle is doing it just by the fact that you can see this bend in her elbow means that she's pointing her elbows back towards where her heels are pointing. So point your elbows that way, it'll give you better leverage. It'll allow you to use your back muscles in a different way that might be useful, but in any case, it's safer for the shoulders. Take one more breath out. Good, now inhale, release the toes, look forward, and then exhale, step back and take the vinyasa. And of course, if anything hurts in vinyasa, skip that one part of the vinyasa, unless it hurts every part of the vinyasa. And if downward dog hurts, do child's pose. And if everything hurts, then I guess just do everything anyways. Okay, let's continue on with some of our good leg building. Step your right foot forward between the hips. Start in a lunge where your back knee is lifted. And take the impression of the first lunge you did in the sun salutation into this one. So you get a long stance and really start to enhance the way that you straighten your back leg. So much of our lunges, which warrior pose also count, come down to how we use our back leg. So your back leg is the central support system, like the fluidity and the action of all these lunges. So then you come up to a high lunge, but keep the hands on the hips. Okay. Use your left glute and try to turn your pelvis backwards. So think of doing the opposite action of sticking your butt out. So you're pulling your butt into the body, and that way pulling the torso away from the front leg. Okay, so now still keeping the hands on the hips. Inhale, straighten your front leg. Exhale, bend it. Good. Again, inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. And last one is you inhale, straighten your front leg. When it's straight, re-straighten the back leg, re-engage the left glute, and keep the left side of you contained when you bend your front knee back to lunge. That's it. Hands on the mat. Step back, take a vinyasa, or wait it out in dog pose. But just make sure you're not skipping the vinyasa only because it's difficult. If there's pain, that's one thing. Hardship should not be exclusionary criteria. Left foot forward, high lunge. Take a long stance. Make sure your front thigh is parallel to the ground. Your back foot is vertical. And then come on up, hands on the hips. Okay, one quick thing about the back leg, since we have a couple of breaths, about the back foot more specifically, try to pull the outer edge of your foot up towards your body. So you're shortening the outer ankle, right? If you guys remember this movement, E version. So do that in the back foot, and that will help you contain the back leg better. So hands staying on the hips, inhale, front leg straightens. Exhale, sit back into it. Keep your back leg consistent. Inhale, straighten the front. Keep your right glute engaged. Exhale, bend. Good, one more time. Inhale, straighten. Pull your pelvis back in. And exhale, sit back. Good, hands on the mat. Step back. Take your vinyasa or downward dog. Okay, step your right foot forward. Lunge again. Okay, so this time, still, hands on the hips, come back up to high lunge. I want to try to stack these poses and just add one extra pose on top of all the previous sequences. So hands still being on the hips, bring them down a little bit. Now do this slowly. Bend your front leg. And now I want you to try to pivot yourself to warrior two, but look at your front knee as you do it so that your big toe on the right foot isn't hidden from your line of sight when you move your whole body to warrior two. Okay. And so now you can extend your arms, lift your back toes. And I know what we hear a lot about pressing the outer edge of the back foot down, right? It doesn't work exactly like that with all standing poses. Instead, try to push the inner edge of your back foot into the ground, but still lift your toes while you do it and just really dig away at that inner edge on the left foot. Take one more deep breath in, and then bring your arms down. Take a vinyasa or come back to dog pose. Left foot forward. Come back up, hands on the hips. Okay, so before we do it, look down at your own left toe. Make sure you can see your toe to the inside of your knee. And then stare at it, and as slowly as you guys need to, move yourself to warrior two so that the big toe never hides by the front knee. It's never hidden by the front knee. So when you get into full warrior two, extend your arms out, lift the back toes, and dig the inner edge of your back foot into the ground. Hard inner edging, so that the outer edge can even lift. Good show. Take one more breath in. And exhale, bring your arms down, set your left leg back. Take yourself to your vinyasa. Good. Once you're back to downward dog, step your right foot forward again. What do we know? Another lunge. Come back up to where your hands are on the hips. So that pivot that you guys made to warrior two, all we're going to do is do that back and forth 3 rounds. You guys are getting a break because it's only an hour class, otherwise it would be at least 5 rounds. So let's do it together. You're going to inhale first. Exhale, move to warrior two. Keep your front knee bent. Good. Now slowly, on the inhale, bring yourself back to high lunge, keeping your front knee steady with the front ankle. Take an extra inhale in high lunge. Exhale, back to warrior two. Inhale, pivot back forward to high lunge. Last one. Exhale to warrior two. Nice. Now you're going to straighten your front leg. Extend your arms out to the sides, like a triangle. And then lean your torso back. Lean your torso away from the front leg. And what you can see here, well, I would rather you guys not look at the computer screen, so I'll try to describe it. I want you to try to lift your right hip, yes, as opposed to the left. So really lean everything back in the side bend. And this is a nice beginning to a triangle because it starts with the right side of your torso nice and exposed. And now slowly come forward into your triangle so that you keep that right flank of yourself lengthened as much as possible. And you can either stop with where your hand is on the shin, or you can always place your hand on the floor. It's up to you. Make sure that when you do place your hand on the floor, that it's on the outside of your leg. And what we're looking for is to deepen that right hip crease so that the curve, if there is any curve on the right side of the torso, we can minimize it by pulling that left hip back. So in this pose, instead of pressing the inner edge of your back foot down, do the opposite. Press the outer edge of your back foot down. Almost as if you were like scooping sand with the sole of your back foot. Good. You're going to take one more deep breath in. And as you exhale, bend the front knee, both hands come down, step back, take a vinyasa or whatever else you might need. Okay, right foot, left foot forward. Start with that same high lunge. We'll do the back and forth entry to warrior two. Right, so you can imagine if your front leg was put into a cast. So how I'm framing Michelle's shin right now is I'm making sure that her knee never deviates from the position by relationship to her ankle. So as you exhale, slide to warrior two. Okay, now slowly inhale, turn back to the front. Good. Take an inhale, extra inhale. Exhale, maybe take even longer to slide to warrior two. That transition is critical, and it's incredibly intelligent tactics that you're employing in the hips to do it. Inhale, turn back to the front. Good. Exhale, warrior two again. Good. Now take your arms out to the sides. Straighten your front leg, preparing for trying to lean back so that you open up the left side of the torso. And as you exhale and fold forward or reach forward, try to maintain as much of that length on the left side of the body as possible. Right, and we can all feel this right now. So you guys know what your right side of the body feels like, you know what your left side of the body feels like. The whole attempt is to try to replicate actually, the length of the right side of the torso with the length of the left side of the torso. So the distance between your left armpit and left hip should be equal to the distance between your right armpit and right hip. Press the outer edge of your back foot down. One more deep breath out. Good. Inhale, hand to the mat, bend your front knee, step back, take a vinyasa or dog pose. Okay, step your right foot forward again. Hands on the hips, come up to high lunge. Okay, now inhale, straighten your front leg. Keep the front leg straight. Let's add one more thing. Lift your arms overhead. And with your arms overhead, hold your hands like this. So cross your thumbs so that your palms are open to the front. And then try to tear your hands from each other against the grip of your thumbs. Okay, so keep holding your arms like that. Exhale, fold forward. And elongate your body by reaching continuously forward, your fingertips coming down. Good. Keep the back heel up. And we can add a little bit of something if you need more challenge in the back leg. So first we're doing Parsvottanasana, where the front knee and the forehead attempt to meet. If your forehead gets to near your shin rather easily, then start to try sliding your head down your leg. So you're perpetually elongating the entire torso. Okay, those of you that can handle it, step your left foot forward a little bit and place your left foot at like a 10 or 11 o'clock position. Bring your back foot back over here. So now we got regular Parsvottanasana. If doing this version with your back heel down hurts your lower back, come back to lifting your back heel. So you're still folding in. Good. So now hands go underneath your shoulders. Lengthen forward like you're doing a half lift with split legs, pyramid legs. Bend your front knee. And then bring your hands forward about 1.5 feet from where your front heel is. And then come up into a fingertip supported warrior three. So take a moment to settle into it, but try to have the distance between your hands and your heel be equal to the distance between your pelvis and your shoulders, so that your hands, your foundation always reflects what it's actually supporting, right? And try the opposite. So bring your hands closer to your foot, you guys, closer to your right foot, right? It kind of makes you want to round and fold over. So I want you to keep your hands a little bit further, just for the sole purpose of keeping your chest more erect. So now we're going to start to activate the posterior chain of the body, which is right now the lower body, especially the hamstrings, glutes, and all that, all the foundations of our low back. So what you're going to do is inhale, bring your left foot just to touch the floor, wherever it naturally lands, keep the legs straight, and then exhale, left foot lifts up. And keep your toes angled down. So inhale, leg comes down, exhale, leg comes up. So both legs stay straight. And of course, if it's too much, you keep your hands on the ground. You can put your hands on 1 or 2 blocks. And so it's as if each leg is in a stick. So the angle is just perfect when you do it. Do it one more time. Total of 5. Now keep your left leg up. Place your left hand on your left hip. And swivel everything open to half moon. And once again, keep the distance between your right hand and your right foot the same distance as there exists between your right shoulder and your right hip. See how smoothly you can step this whole thing back to triangle pose. How quietly. And why? It's because half moon is basically the standing, balancing version of triangle pose. Exhale, bend your front knee, bring your hands down. Step back, take a vinyasa. If you're already familiar enough with these vinyasas to close your eyes, try not to let any pose that you can close your eyes out of sight. Couple breaths of dog. Now that we're getting some circulation moving, right, something that naturally emerges out of there is maybe some sense of appreciation for the fact that the body works, and that when, even if it's challenged in the midst of all this function, there's an orderliness to it that just feels secure, grounding, containing. Left foot forward, high lunge. Coming up to high lunge, place your hands on the hips. Now straighten your front leg. Keep the front leg straight. Lift your arms overhead. Keep the back heel up. Get that same thumb cross, except do it with the other thumb in front. So make sure it feels different than what it did on the previous side. Lengthen out through the arms by trying to pull your hands away from each other. And as you exhale, fold forward while projecting your arms as far as you can away from you. And those of you that did so before, right now you can already step your right foot forward a little bit. Get the heel on the ground, making sure that the angle of your back foot is somewhere between 1 and 2 o'clock. And then continuously fold your head towards the ultimate destination of your foot. And it's not like the head can ever get to the foot, right? Because that would mean you either have a unnaturally long torso or really short legs, but it's almost like we set the bar in our practice higher than where we can ever reach it. Because if you reach a high bar that you set, first of all, it means maybe you didn't set that high of a bar. And secondly, once you reach a high bar, like what are you supposed to do after that? So we're always setting goals that can be just a little bit out of reach, right? That way we never slide back into apathy of any kind. So place your hands back underneath your shoulders. Bend your front knee. Place your hands about 1.5 feet in front of the toes and come up into a finger-supported warrior 3. Back up if you want to. Okay, extend your chest forward. Extend your tailbone back. Now keep this kind of half lift architecture of your upper body. And then inhale, just bring your back toes to touch the ground without bending the knee. Exhale, straighten it. And it's one thing to do this with your eyes open. If you can handle that, see if you can move with it, keeping your eyes closed. So you're discovering in some way what movement means when you can't actually visually start interpreting it, right? Because as soon as we see something, then it's easy to get wrapped up. I wish it looked different. I wish my pants were different. I wish this class was earlier, whatever it is. On the last one, maybe lift your leg up. Start to pivot yourself to half moon. So again, the distance, to reiterate, between your left hand and your left foot is the exact same distance as between your left shoulder and your left hip. Spike your left arm into the ground the same way that you're spiking your left leg into the ground. So everything that ascends up can only ascend by its relationship to the downward push. And a very nice quiet step to triangle pose. So just see then how you can translate half moon into triangle. If you analyze it, they're identical. One more breath in. And a long-winded exhale to bring yourself out. Step back, take a vinyasa. Okay. So the only thing we haven't really done that much of, or at all of actually, except for the first little bit, is a twist. So let's do some twisting. Step your right foot forward between the hips. Keep your back knee lifted. Keep your left hand on the ground. And just lift your right arm up. A twist like this, because your back leg is straight and your front leg is bent, actually helps you start elongating the psoas line on the left leg, the left hip, more specifically. And when you turn your spine this way, it helps put a little bit more length on those psoas fibers. And now inhale, right hand comes down. So that was kind of like the preliminary. Bring your left knee down, lift your torso up. Keep your right hand in your right hip crease, lift your left arm up. Take one inhale to elongate the trunk. And as you exhale, just rotate and fold forward until your left arm comes down to your right. All right, some of you that can bind, bind. Otherwise, just keep your elbow on the outside of your thigh and do the prayer position. Just make sure those of you that are binding, you want to always hold the binding hand. You want to have the gripping hand be the one that's actually bound underneath the leg. So here, your left hand should be holding the right forearm wrist area. And hold it pretty well while also spreading the fingers on that right arm, that right hand. Keep the relationship between your front leg and the arm that's on it as you lift your back knee, which requires a little bit of like subtle steering of your front knee to the right. Keep projecting your left leg off the ground. Good. You notice how a lot of these lunges, they insist upon the same kind of toe sit arrangement that we had in the beginning. So all class long, we've been doing toe sits on top of standing poses. One more breath out. Glorious inhale, take your hands out. Back to the mat, take a vinyasa, or just come back to dog pose. And then step your left foot forward. Keep your back knee lifted. Right hand stays on the mat, left arm goes up. Look at your right hand, you guys. Make sure the middle finger of your right hand faces forward. And if you ever heard instruction about turning your hand out, there's just a little bit of an element of danger that could sneak in there, because when you externally rotate your shoulder, the anterior part of your shoulder, a part called the capsule, the joint capsule, can start to get exposed to too much pressure, which can destabilize eventually your entire shoulder, which nobody wants, nobody needs. Inhale, bring your right knee down, bring your left hand down, lift your torso up. We'll set up for the final twist. Left hand stays in the left hip crease, and by pushing down on your left hip, you're lengthening the left side of the body. Lift your right arm up. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, just twist and fold. So just those two things. You're rotating, folding down. So either upper arm or armpit around the front knee for bind, Now, if you can't get your upper arm, best yet, even your armpit around your front leg, it's too soon to bind. So be very careful binding that way. Now remember here, your right hand is the one that grabs the left wrist. And you want to have the grip of your right hand be pretty forceful back there. So grip it tight, and that'll keep your right shoulder more stable. Keep your front leg stable with your back hand. And if you just keep that container of a tight grip of your right hand, you can actually use it to like leverage a little bit more of a twist, right? Just make sure all of this twisting, because it's easy to get intoxicated with them, not shadow over the dominance of the back leg in the pose. So take one more deep breath out. Glorious. Inhale and twist. Hands on the mat. Take a vinyasa or dog pose. Very good. Come down to the knees, please. Turn this way. So one thing you can do, if you have a block or a blanket, a towel, or a cushion or anything, is you can have a block between your heels and sit like this. Okay. Otherwise, if you can sit on the floor, as Michelle is doing, with your feet separated, then sit on the floor. If you look at both knees, make sure that your knees are directly in front of the hips. And what you should never see happen in these poses is where one thigh drifts away from your hip line. Okay? You can go medial to that, but don't let it go out laterally from that. So what we're going to start with is the left leg. So you're going to lean over to your left leg, step your right foot forward. So you're in a single leg hero pose. And then put your hands on the ground, lift your butt a little bit, and scoot your butt right up to the inside of your left heel. If you're sitting on a block, right, it still makes sense. So you're going to look down at your left heel and make sure that the outer edge, of your left hip is in line to the inner edge of your left foot. Okay, now lean back onto your hands a little bit. Press down with the hands, lift your butt, and do that same posterior tilt in the pelvis. So it's like you're pulling your butt into the body. And that way you land a higher part of your butt on the ground, at which point, keep the toes active in the left foot, at which point you can then start to lean back to your elbows. Once you're on your elbows, again, give a little bit of pressure on the ground with your arms. Lift your pelvis up and see if you can get another little increment of posterior tilt where you're pulling your butt into the body and thereby landing even a higher part of your butt on the mat. Make sure that you're always keeping your left knee centered. And those of you that are close enough, if you want to, you can lay all the way back. And keep your right knee bent, keep your right foot flat. You can even take your right foot to the side a little bit, just so you use your right leg to help you navigate a little bit more balance in the weight distribution between your left hip and right hip, your left leg and the right leg. While pressing down with your left toes into the ground, also try to smash your shin to the mat. So imagine you were kicking the ground with your knee, which is going to turn on your glute and your hamstrings, which is what we want. And this is a great way to start to actively lengthen your left psoas, the whole hip flexor quadricep line. And if you are laying down, it's not easy to notice when your left knee starts to drift away from center. So do your best to continuously keep it contained, to stay in touch with whether or not it moves. Good. As you come up out of the pose, still keep your left foot, your left leg active. So come up elbow to elbow and then hand to hand. And then you're going to come forward on all fours. Straighten your left leg back, turn that way. And then we're going to repeat on the other side. So You're going to sit back into your asana. Would you mind actually turning around just so you can see the right leg? Okay. So your left leg is going to stay, right leg is going to stay down. Step your left foot forward. Spread the toes on your right foot. Use your fingers if necessary. If you're sitting all the way on the floor, the inner edge of your heel should be in direct contact to your hip. So you see where my hand is? It's right between our inner heel and outer hip. There should be no space there. Even if you're on the block, even if you're lifted, it should be on the same plane, right? That's important for the sake of your knee. Lean back onto your hands when you're ready. Lift your pelvis and do that butt scoop. So do the opposite of sticking your butt out. Land a higher part of your butt down, keeping your knees centered. Maybe lean back to your elbows. And every little bit that you add to the system, every little bit of tension you introduce, is going to tempt the right knee to lift. So that's where you have to keep kicking the floor with your shin. And if you're on your elbows, you can then slowly start to lean back to your back. Right? And if that's not enough, there's just no way to lean back further than this. I'm sorry. You can't lean back further than the floor. There is ways that we can increase the stretch here by putting a block underneath the pelvis eventually, but next class. Because the psoas being what they are, being such a deep muscle, it's such a richly innervated with a lot of nerves, your sympathetic nervous system nerves, so your fight or flight reflex, when that gets jacked up, it sends an impulse to your hip flexors because that's what makes you kind of like round over or run, right? It's like the preparedness for danger. And one of the reasons that that muscle has been so tight in many people is just because of daily stresses. So our fight or flight reflex get triggered, hip flexors get tight. Every time it gets triggered, bam, another hit. Which means that when we're stretching and lengthening it, those same sensations of stress can start to get promoted. But it's not real stress, right? It's kind of like a pseudo stress, right? There's like a mirage of danger, but the danger isn't real. And if you sit in a pose long enough, you'll see that that dissipates. That's probably long enough. Keep your right foot and leg active. Slowly come up elbow by elbow, then hand by hand. And then come forward on all fours and straighten your right leg behind you just to get some good circulation through you. Very good. And then let's go ahead and lay down on the back. Got a couple minutes, so as soon as you're on your back, face either way. Since we're not going to be setting up shoulder stand with any props or blankets or anything, got to be a little bit, we have a different technique that we got to work out. So take your legs overhead, get into plow pose first. If this is difficult for you, wherever you are, you can slide yourself close to the wall. So if your feet can't make it to the ground, you can always put your feet on the wall. Okay, once you get into plow pose, place your hands on your back. Make sure that your fingers are facing up. So your fingers are pointing straight to the ceiling, all right? Try to get your elbows narrow. And then slowly lift your legs up. Okay, now because I don't want anybody to look at the screen at this point, if you're in shoulder stand, the worst thing you can do for your neck is actually turn the head and look anywhere but at your own body. So let me see if I can just talk you through this. It's not necessary to get a straight line from the shoulders to the heels when you're just on the bare floor. So that means you can tilt your torso back a little bit, which means your feet are going to be more above the face and your butt is going to be more above the elbows. And that's going to allow a lot of flexion to be taken out of your neck. Because what we want to avoid is just dumping the head down, just like stuffing the neck into the deepest range of motion, and on top of that, putting your full body weight on it. So that's dangerous. We want to stay away from that. The benefits of shoulder stand are still the same, even if you don't obviously hurt yourself doing it. So keeping your nose, the center of your face in line with your plumb line. You guys, can you feel the back of your neck? If you can feel the floor with the center of the back of the neck, then put a little bit of pressure of the back of the head into the mat. So try to like push your skull into the mat, just enough, yes, to create a little bit of a tunnel underneath your neck. Right, so it's just a little tunnel. It doesn't have to be deep. It's like, it's enough for like a cockroach to run through. Right, I hope you don't have any around, but if you do, you might be able to run underneath your neck. Maybe it's not a big cockroach, maybe it could be like a baby cockroach, a teenager cockroach. How do we get on the subject? Anyway, squeeze your legs together. Okay, now make sure that your body weight stays in your elbows. Bend at the hips, bring your legs overhead to plow pose. And again, either plow pose, feet on the wall, or plow pose with your feet on the floor. Okay, one good thing about plow pose, curl your toes under. Press your feet in your legs into the ground. So try to add pressure to that natural weight of your legs that's being borne on your feet right now. So you're pushing your feet into the mat, and when you push your feet into the mat, it'll help you lift your pelvis up. And plow pose is a forward bend, pretty much just like any other forward bend. So the ideal is to not overly round the spine, but you really start to develop and refine the flexibility of the hips. Okay, now if you'd like to stay in plow pose a little bit longer for yourself, since class is over, then go ahead and stay in it. Otherwise, hold them out with your hands as you slide down. And then right from there, we're going to go into our Shavasana. And because this class is the way it is, as we finish with a meditation, I'm going to just change the setup of the, thank you, Michelle. We're going to change up the position of the camera. So if you're staying for the meditation, then get yourself seated. If you want to do your meditation practice, as I walk us through a couple of things while you're laying down in Shavasana, that's also an option. And if you just want peace and quiet, then you can go ahead and exit, close your computer, your phone, or anything, and enjoy your rest. And if you are leaving at this point, thank you for coming. Much love to you guys. Okay, now. So just to those that are sitting, whatever you sit on, you can sit on a chair. You don't have to sit on the ground to be a good meditator. Just make sure that your knees are slightly lower than your hips. Just slightly. And if you're sitting in a chair, that's easier to do because you could just come right to the edge of your chair and walk your feet forward a little bit so that your thighs slant down. Close your eyes and feel into the structure of your seat. If you're sitting on a cushion or on a block, or for that matter, even if you're just laying in Shavasana on your back, just feel into that structure. And notice if your pelvis is naturally inclined to tip forward, to tip backwards, which is just the difference between your butt sticking out and your butt doing the opposite. And what's ideal is if you just sort of range yourself forward to the front edge of your seat, those of you that are sitting, you'll notice how your sit bones come close to that edge of the object. And I want you to take like half of your sit bone, the front half of your sit bones, off that edge. So that gravity just places you in a slightly tilted forward pelvic position, which is remarkable for your low back and the rest of the spine. And you let the rest of your skeleton just be completed by this foundational arrangement. Keeping your eyes closed, rotate your gaze down. Imagine you were looking at the tip of your nose from behind your eyelids. And if you're still noticing your heart rate hasn't quite slowed down to where you're completely calm and relaxed. Feel into that a little bit deeper. One way of thinking about meditation is just simply a higher regard for having a higher regard for the everyday, seemingly mundane aspects of being in the body. You might find it helpful to just relax your jaw, your bottom jaw, and separate your bottom teeth from your top teeth. And you can still breathe through your nose even if your mouth is open. If you notice that creates a lot more quiet in your skull, your cranial area. And just leave your jaw a little bit slack. every time we close our eyes, it's not actually that we're closing ourselves off to what's going on. This manner of closing the eyes is just simply turning around to look at the other side of your existence. Right? It is simply the case of, if you're looking at a sunset, you could just as easily turn your head and look at what's in the opposite direction of the sunset. And so closing the eyes is simply like turning your gaze around, turning your head around, and looking at what on the other side of what? Experience. What's on the other side of experience? Which in these traditions of yoga and Buddhism have always converged on that same terminology of it's the seer. In a way that we don't just grant credence to the objects that we see, perceive. We're granting credence to the fact that there is something perceiving them. And the tricky thing about looking for that sense of seer, observer, is that we're tempted to describe it. We're tempted to describe it internally in the same way that we would describe a sunset. But the thing is, what allows you to describe a sunset, what allows you to identify the objects that you're perceiving, has to stand outside of those descriptors. Because whatever is seeing the orange golden glow of a sunset isn't itself golden or orange. And there's a hack. We kind of hack this with the technique. Instead of attempting to verbally, conceptually identify that place that we're looking from, all we do is just settle into present moment feeling. And your mind will once in a while slip back into naming and concepts. A memory will come up, or a fantasy will come up. And it's your awareness, it's that sense of the seer, the perceiver, that gives every other thought its life. But we're not following it. We're not following the completion of thoughts and concepts. We just simply remain back in what feels the most immediate. And when we observe that, when we observe this all too simple, all too available reality of being a feeling, sensing organism, when we do that, we are looking right into the face of what beauty is in its essence. We're looking at what it means to exist as existence itself is supported by the structure of order, structure of beauty. Beauty is not devoid of structure. We know that flowers have their specific mathematical and geometric assemblies. There's math intrinsic into every living creature. Math, physics, chemistry. It just simply says this whole thing follows an order. And beauty isn't necessarily only when things feel good. And this is the realization that all these seers and rishis and saints have reported, which is even amidst pain, even amidst suffering, there is still beauty to be gleaned from the fact that you are still experiencing something. And the ability to do so has potency, it has value, it has its own moral code intrinsic in it. That here marks the end of our sitting session. Please don't feel like you have to open your eyes and come out. If you want to stay a little bit longer, remain as you are. I'm going to end the session in a minute. Thank you for joining me for our practice today. If you have any questions, feel free to send them. Much love, you guys. Namaste.